Hello everybody, welcome back to another video today on the channel, and today I'm going to be going over the Cabals Revenge Raid, more specifically Death 1 and 2 in the Dauntless Troop strat that does the Poison Oak side boss. Now, Poison Oak is interesting and fun in the aspect that he drops some very valuable, very sought after gear and item cards. He drops the mounts that I have right here, the spirit mounts that have the penguins with the flag that are carrying you. There are 7 versions of these mounts, one for each school, and they drop at an okay drop rate. For him, I've done. We can see here how many runs I've done of Cabal's Revenge, and I'm at 15, and I've gotten 2 permanent mounts from him. And we didn't even kill Poison Oak in all of those runs. Um, but he also drops some very valuable treasure cards, especially for people that PvP in the Sun Shield, and the Moon Shield, and the Star Shields, that are minus 50 shields that kind of switch up the order of schools that the shields go in to prevent it being from pierced off or whatnot. I don't know. I don't do PvP. But he also gives you a badge if you defeat him as well. That is pretty cool, and for summoning him as well, it is the Lean Mean to Green machine for defeating him and being on the team. You have to be in the battle that defeats him in order to get this badge, but also simply summoning him gets you the Mean Green Thumb. Now, I'm not going to go over the entirety of Poison Oak and how the boss works, but I'm going to go over specifically Death 1 and Myth 1, the 2 roles that fight him in this video. I'm doing this on my Death because I don't have a Myth Wizard, and also Death is the one that has the heftier stat requirements. And in this video, I'm going to go over the stat requirements, show you what I'm running to hit those requirements, and then going over the raid itself, a run that I've previously recorded, and explaining what you do, why you do it, and where things are at. So without further ado, let's go look at the stat requirements. Now, the Death 1 and the Myth 1 roles are really only kind of crazy if you're doing Poison Oak. Otherwise, if you're not doing Poison Oak in the Cabals Revenge Raid, for whatever reason, anybody really can do this role. Just put them on cannons. But if you are doing Poison Oak, which a lot of guilds tend to do, then this is kind of the way that we do it, at least in this strat. Now, the required stats aren't super complex. It just is kind of weird in the aspect that you need Storm accuracy, and if you're the Death 1, Storm damage, because you are using Path Beast Sirens to help set up blades for your shield gambit. So for Death, you need 11,000 health, 45% resist universally, 202 death damage, your stat cap, 105 storm damage, 20 death accuracy, 30 storm accuracy, 25 death pierce, and 30 storm pierce, 2-piece shad, and storm mastery. Now, the storm mastery amulets are the ones from like Omen or Darkmoor or Imperia. 2-piece shad is where it gets a bit tricky. Now, it doesn't matter exactly what pieces of gear you're running that are shad, except it is very helpful, and I'll get into this when I explain the gear setup if you're running the Reaver robe. The cards that you pack are quite straightforward. You pack a 45% item card Deathblade. It's important that it has to be 45% because otherwise you won't kill. 3 Thermic Shields, a Frenzy, Reinforce works as well. Shadow Strike, Time of Legend, it must be a 35, where again, you won't kill. And a Doom Oni. TC wise, you need 2 Deathblades, a Path Beast Thunder Snake, and a Path Beast Sirens. Most of these TCs you can get at the Bazaar, and if you can't find them, you can craft them at the PvP Crafter at the Guild House with Azoth. For Myth 1, pretty much quite simple setup. You need 11,000 health, 45% universal resist, and your stat caps for damage, 45% Myth Pierce, which isn't super hard to get, 25% Myth Accuracy, 30% Storm Accuracy, 2-piece Shad, and Storm Mastery as well. And you're running basically the same thing. Myth Blade, a Thermic Shield, Frenzy, Strike. You do run 2 Elemental Blades, however, and a Fantastic Djinn, and again, 2 TC Myth Blades, a Thunder Snake Path B, and a Siren's Path B. These have to both be on schools. You also will send a Restoring Ring 1 into your Tree Branch fight, and I'll get into that once we get into the actual raid itself. Myth-wise, I don't have the gear set up, obviously, because I don't have a myth, but typically what people will be running is they're going to run either Wastelander hat or Shabalba boots, Wastelander boots, with a Shabalba Fairy K wand. Um, any of those pieces can be Stalker as long as you hit your caps as well, while also having some triangle sockets that you are putting that accuracy on to. Again, any Mastery Amulet works here, you just need to hit your caps. Um, and this is basically, in essence, what your gear setup is, what your stat requirements are, and from there, it's pretty simple. And now I'm going to go show you this how I'm hitting these stat caps, stat requirements on my death. So hitting the stat requirements isn't super hard if you have the right gear. For example, I have the Burrower's hat, and I am pinning storm damage onto it. Now, it isn't super needed. I don't know why there's a crit pierce pin there. I'm gonna go fix that later. But you can get most of your storm damage requirements and the pierce requirements simply by running damage and pierce pins for storm. And the Burrower's hat helps me get nice shadow rating. You can also run if you have, say, the Wastelander's hat. The Wastelander's hat actually is better here. I just didn't want to reconfigure all of my pins. And if you're running your second piece of shadow somewhere else, you can also just simply run the Reaver hood. It works just as well. Or you can run the August Sage cap, although don't run a lot of these pieces of gear, as you will be losing a ton of very valuable resist. For Robe, I'm running the Reaver Robe because of that 45% item card Deathblade. This is incredibly important for Poison Oak, and it saves you from needing to dedicate a triangle socket to one of those Deathblade jewels, because it has to be a 45, and those are the only ways to get a 45 that aren't on an amulet. For boots, I'm running the Reaver boots with some storm accuracy socketed, not storm pin, and I also do typically run storm pins here. I just switched it out because I was diffing for something. But if you really wanted to, and as long as you maintain the stat requirements, you can run the Burrower's boots instead. Or you can run the August Sage shoes from Takanobu or the ones from Lambent. You can, even if you can hit your Power Pip requirement, run the Shabalba shoes if you've done Crying Sky before. As long as you hit the requirements and have storm damage, you're going to be fine. I'm running the Shabalba wand, but the one from Selenopolis or the Reaver wand works just as well here. You can even run, if you really wanted to, something like your Wastelanders wand, as long as you can maintain the Pierce requirement. If you don't have access to the Shabalba wand and you want to get the Shad off of it, as long as you have two pieces of gear that give you Shad, you're going to be fine. Running the Hun Hao Athame solely because I had pins for it. In all actuality, it's probably better to just simply run the Takanobu thing, but I already had stuff socketed onto this before when I was initially making the setup. But you can also run the Reaver thing if you have another way to get a triangle socket, although I wouldn't recommend it because it's very easy to get the triangle socket through here. Omen Storm Mastery with Health Tools socketed. This is very vital because you do genuinely need as much health as you can get because Poison Oak hits like a truck. Wastelander's Ring. This is to help me get more accuracy overall and make up for the fact that I am losing a bit of power pip with the gear I am running. But you can also run stuff like just simply your normal Reaver Ring, or if you have your old Novus gear that gives you, say, death and storm damage, you can run stuff like that as well. As a pet, I'm running a Quint, like I normally do, but really the pet body doesn't matter, nor do the pet talents, as long as you're able to get the stat requirements that you need. You can run a triple double damage pierce, you can run a triple double damage resist, you can run pierce, resist, and a damage talent. The pet doesn't really matter that much. I'm also typically do run the Clockwork Courser, because it does help me get to my Pierce requirement overall, and it just gives me a bit of extra Pierce, while also running the Wastelander's deck that gives me a triangle socket for my time of Legend Jewel. Any triangle socket deck works here, and really any deck as long as you can hit the caps, but you can run, say, the Hun Hao deck. I have that with a Darkwind Jewel on it, or you can even run, say, the Darkmoor deck if you have it. That, in essence, gets me well over my damage requirement, my damage cap for death. well over the damage requirement on Storm. I have 46 Universal Pierce, I am over both accuracy requirements, and I also am over both of the Pierce ones as well. 104 Power Pip, which is really helpful. And overall, these are very solid stats for fighting Poison Oak. Um, really, in essence, this is also just a really good overall gear set to run as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into an actual run of the Cabals Revenge Raid and walk you through how it goes. One quick thing, I figured I'd just show you kind of how the stats look when you do have all of the correct pins equipped. You will have 155 storm damage and then 35 30 pierce. Realize, just to prevent any confusion, I did not have all the pins socketed on my boots, but this is the pierce that you will be getting if you have the correct pins socketed. So when you get into the Cabals Revenge Raid, you will spawn kind of on the roof of this tower building, and you need to go to step on a drum like you do in all of the other raids. Now, one thing to note is that you will see these kind of banners here. Each banner is a color that corresponds to where you spawn for the actual raid. It's important to step onto the right one, otherwise bad things will tend to happen. So, if you are Death 1, you will be starting on the blue banner in Southwest, and the same thing will happen if you are Myth 1. Now, if you want to know, here's the overall kind of raid map. So, it looks just like a compass. North, east, west, southwest. Never eat Santa's wife. And you will spawn basically right around here. Once you start the raid, you are going to need to pick up a thing called rope in order to repair the catapults that are here, 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 and here. You're only responsible for this catapult that is in Southwest, and rope can spawn kind of pretty much anywhere. In the raid, in the video, I will show you the kind of normal pathing I take for my rope. You can hold one at a time, it's just like Dreamwater and Nightmare, and you need 6 to fully repair the catapult. But it's important to make sure that you spawn on the blue flag portal thing, otherwise bad things will happen because you are not in the spot that you need to be at. Once you collect rope and repair the Southwest catapult, there are also snow fortresses that you need to magic touch. You kind of will see them here on this raid map, but I will also kind of show you where they are in the raid as we go through it. So here you have the typical just trying to get on the drum shenanigans. Normally when I go down the stairs and take a right down the stairs past the Random Seedling. You kind of just run up here and look for rope. It's going to be on the ground, and it's kind of going to blend in with the snow, but you just need to kind of be vigilant. There's a piece of rope that spawned there, and so I go pick it up and deposit it. Now you kind of just run around and look. A lot of the times the rope will spawn under trees and whatnot. That's why I'm kind of looking the way I am. There's a piece of rope right there. I go pick it up and run back to go deposit it back at the catapult. It's kind of just this endless game of trying to find the rope. It's not a guaranteed spawn anywhere. Sometimes you can have a ton of rope. Sometimes you can have no rope. And so it's just like, it's a thing where you need to communicate with your team. There's 2 other people in the quadrant with you. One of them's going to be pulling mobs. As you can see, here is one of the snow fortresses you need to magic touch. I magic touched it because I was right there. Now, right there, you'll kind of see there is a portal that is spawning mobs. Now, you do not want these mobs to get to the catapult because they will destroy it, and if they destroy your catapult, it's an immediate reset because you just simply won't have the time. As you can see here, you only really have 10 minutes to complete the run. So you need to have somebody that's permanently pulling mobs. Now, the mob pulling bit isn't important for Death 1 or Myth 1, but just keep in mind you need to kind of A, steer clear of them so you don't get pulled into their fight by accident, and B, try to be quick because you don't want your mob puller to get overwhelmed by the mobs coming out of the portal thing. So you kind of just run around. As you can see, he's kind of getting overwhelmed, and so there are times where you will go and do things to try and help make sure that stuff doesn't happen. For example, I pulled the mob in this scenario because you, under no circumstances, want to let it get to the actual catapult. So I can see you go and kill. The mobs are squishy. You have 800 health and like no resist, and you just kind of have to finish with it. If you need to help your mob puller by pulling a mob and kind of stalling, do that. Listen to them. It is important. But you kind of sit here and run. There is a sigil that is on the catapult. If you pull it and it gets to that sigil, the catapult isn't going to be broken. It simply just means that you can't deposit your last bit of rope for that period of time. And so I kind of just sit here, watch him kill, and wait so I can deposit my last rope and put it into the catapult. Your only hit is Oni. Your miss only hits Jin, so it's going to take a while to kill the mobs. But trust me, you are going to do a pretty damn good job of killing them. So you get the rope, you let your puller know, because in this scenario, your puller is the person that's going on to Vanguard. They catapult themselves up onto Vanguard. So I'm throwing and just paused the recording instead of the video by accident. But anyways, your mob puller, if you're a Death 1 or Myth 1, is going to be catapulted onto the roof. They are your Vanguard. There are 4 Vanguards, just like there is in Voyage's Void, but instead of simply going into a gate like you do in Void, they have to get catapulted up to the roof. That is why you need to do it quick, so you have time to go actually do the rest of the raid after they pull the levers and get you more time, but also your mob puller needs to somewhat be healthy for the actual fight. Now you have the random seedling fight, though, and I will go over that with you real quick. What you see in the random seedling, both as it's a fight that Death 1 and Myth 1 both does, is Death 1 will be going first, as Myth 1's going to send a Restoring Rain 1. It's a very simple fight. You TC Blade yourself, item card Blade yourself, Frenzy, and then send your 11 pip shield spell. It's going to be ungambited, but it's going to kill. Random Seedling may cast a chromatic minus 50% weakness, but you do kill through the weaknesses if both of you are hitting. Um, Now, Death 1, if you don't get hit by the weakness, you're actually just going to kill straight up, and so the Myth 1 isn't really needed there, but they are only there in case you don't, in case you get the chromatic weakness, and because of that, you don't kill. The fight itself, then, is pretty simple. The fight here is quite simple. You simply just blade yourself, and you buff up a few times until you can hit, and then you hit. The recording here did get a bit choppy. My apologies for that. My computer was not having a great day. But anyways, you simply kind of just do the fight, and you end up killing. So here, you're casting your spells, and you're going to inevitably kill. And basically, 9 times out of 10, you're going to kill. Here, we did get hit by the chromatic weaknesses, so the Myth's Djinn was needed in order to actually kill. Again, apologies that it's kind of choppy. The recording got kind of bugged here, but it's the best recording that I ended up really getting. The raid was kind of scuffed. Okay. So I'm turning it down to 1 speed because it seems as that is kind of the reason why the recording's kind of bugging itself out. But now you kind of run around and do something called cannons. There are cannonball spawns in this kind of patch of snow right here, and the way that cannons work is whoever's holding the cannon is slowed down. They get a cantrip that says throw cannonball, and so they're going to click on it like you see here, and click on you. Once they click on you and start casting, run as quickly as you can to the next, to where the cannons are, and we'll kind of show you how to get there. And it's basically kind of this just long game of catch. Be careful not to get pulled. If you get pulled, bad things kind of tend to happen. But you just need to communicate. Cannons is largely about communicating. Sometimes, depending on latency differences between players, you can have scenarios where you have to run. You may be in front of them on your screen, but in their screen, you're behind them. This game is incredibly jank. Yeah, just make sure you click on them and make sure they stop moving. Otherwise, latency can kind of kick you in the butt. In the scenario, we had some mob pulling shenanigans, people just getting overwhelmed, people taking a bit long with rope. And so Jacob, my partner, ended up kind of just standing there, waiting for cannons to be cleared. And then I ran back to go grab a cannon and start walking it back. I will also just kind of let this play out so I can show you where the cannon spawns on the far side. There are two cannons that spawn on the map near and far. The first one spawns where kind of we first picked it up, and the second one spawns where I'm about to show you. There are by the way, four tree branch fights that you need to do to spawn Poison Oak. Once all four are completed, Poison Oak says, "Nature always avenges," and spawns. And I'll kind of show you where he is too. But if you kind of see this life symbol up there, that is him. And this is where the far cannonball spawns. It is incredibly fun. And you kind of just slowly walk. Now, we had some pulling shenanigans. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me mob pull for a little bit, but I'm going to kind of cut to where we go to next. So this is where I got to because it took us so long to pull, going at like quarter speed, and you end up just kind of doing the same thing again. You play catch with cannons. They do have to be somewhat close to you, or you'll get that too far away message that I did just get, but you throw them the cannon, you run, and you kind of do the whole thing again. You pretty much just go and play catch. As you can see, it's just as much a game of communication as it really is trying to make sure you click on the right person. Now, you saw that Eternal Flame there. What those Eternal Flames do is if you collect them, you can run to the braziers that are besides the portals that mobs will spawn out of. If you run up and deposit one of the Eternal Flames into the brazier, then for about 30 seconds, mobs will stop spawning out of the portals, and your pullers can get a little bit of a break. So you kind of just continue to go play this game of catch and keep going until you deposit it into the cannon. One thing that is important, however, is to make sure that when you catch the cannonball, you're a little bit far away from the cannon so you can run up and deposit it. Otherwise, you have to back all the way up and then go all the way back in. And you'll kind of see me do that here, where I get the cannon, I kind of back up a little bit, but I stop, get it, and then run forward. Cannons do 10% of the boss's max HP, which is, or 5% of the boss's max HP, depending on what boss it is. If you're on the west side, it does that to Daemon. East side, it does it to Cabalist. On this side, you only need to do cannons on the west, or on this strat, you only need to do cannons for the west, for Daemon. And as you see, I kind of run around to go deposit these flames at the braziers to go and help out the mob pools. Play a bit of who's going to go deposit the flame where. But after we do this, and we need you will pretty much be doing Poison Oak. Now, what is incredibly important about Poison Oak is you need to make sure that you Wrath of Aquila, an outside spell sent by Storm 1, has been sent into the Daemon fight already. If Wrath of Aquila gets casted into the Poison Oak fight, you lose. Poison Oak has a cheat where if you hit him, he will cast 3 negative 999% shields to the school that you hit him with. Wrath of Aquila hits for all 7 schools, so if if Wrath of Aquila is sent into your fight, Poison Oak is legitimately impossible. So that is why it's important to make sure that Wrath of Aquila has already been sent before you start the boss. And so after this, we do a bit more mob of cannons until Wrath of Aquila is sent, but I'll cut to the Poison Oak fight. So here's the Poison Oak fight, trick-or-treating, and you kind of wait until your Myth 1 gets there. Once you pull, the Death 1 pulls, and the Myth 1... Pause the recording again. once the death one pulls and the myth one goes in, there are no cantrips in this fight, um, which is pretty nice. But let's actually go and look at the strat for the fight itself. Poison Oak is really the main last thing that you do, but Poison Oak is a 12-turn strat, and it does take up a long time. It is very simple. Turn 1, both of you Thermic Shield yourself. Turn 2, Death 1 Thermic Shields himself, and Myth 1 Elemental Blades himself. Turn 3, Death 1 Thermic Shields the Myth 1, and the Myth 1 Elemental Blades the Death 1. Turn 4, both of you pass. Turn 5, you get an item card Time of Legend casted by the Death 1. Myth 1 passes. Turn 6, both of you use your Path B Siren's TC. The reason that the Death has Storm damage is the Storm damage is actually very helpful to killing Poison Oak. And the reason that Myth 1 doesn't have it is the -999 shield that will be casted by Poison Oak, which means no matter what, Myth 1 isn't going to do any damage with your Sirens. But Path B Sirens does have a Gambit that removes 2 of your blades for plus 65 blades of your school. And that's where the TC Thundersnake comes in. Thundersnake removes a blade off of yourself and puts it as a 45 blade for your school, which makes the 2 previously unstackable Sirens blades now suddenly stackable. Now you have a 65 and a 45, which means that you're not going to get punished by stack overflow trying to blade up more, which allows you to use item card Death Blade, item card Myth Blade turn 8, and turn 9 your TC blades on yourself. Turn 10, both of you Strike. Turn 11, both of you Frenzy. And turn 12, you will use your Gambited Shield Gambits on Poison Oak. Typically speaking, you're going to do about 40k with the Doom Oni, and the Fantastic Djinn's going to do 47 to 52k, depending on whether or not there is a crit. What's important is all of this must be followed in the exact order. If none of you crit, which happens quite often, you kill by a few thousand damage, which means that even if one thing is slightly off, you lose a buff is bigger than normal, you will not kill Poison Oak. So now let's go and look at the fight itself and go through it. Turn 1 here, both of you cast your Thermic Shields onto yourself, and Poison Oak is going to cast spells. Now, Poison Oak has a lot of spells at his disposal. He has basically most life spells and storm spells that he can use. He can use things such as Coldbug Squall, Rat Spin, Centaur, stuff like that, and he can deal quite a lot of damage, so you want to make sure you're at as much health as you possibly can be before you start the fight. As you see, you basically follow the turns in order and start to stack your buffs. Poison Oak here is going to use the Tempest. It's going to do a decent bit of damage. And this whole fight is where things get kind of important. And you simply just start stacking your buffs and keep going. Let's see if times 2 speed's going to make it super choppy again. If it does, I apologize. But yeah, and you simply just keep stacking your buffs. I'm going to let this play so you can kind of see how the fight goes out and so you can get a feel for it. What is nice about this strat is you don't need to do a lot of TC pulling or discarding. In fact, you discard 0 cards. If you discarded something, you screwed up. All of your TCs can be pulled by just hitting the draw button because you will have not discarded anything and you only have 7 cards in your deck, which means you can just draw naturally. That is why you saw me draw there. Here are those 265 blades that you're going to get gambited off by the Sirens. And there is the -999 shield cheat. That means, as you see here, no matter what, that Sirens ain't gonna do jack. And again, I'm running Storm damage and Pierce. Again, I do 0 damage. And here you've done your gambits, you have your blades, and it's just simply a game now of stacking buffs. I'm going to use my Anapar Blade on myself. You will be getting, you could at times get Monumental as a card in the fight. You can't damage enchant your gambits, kind of annoying, be pretty cool if you could. So Monumental effectively is useless, but it's there. And now here's the TC Blades. Now you strike. Now you frenzy. Here's Lord of the Jungle. He does have shads. They are very strong shads. They will hurt. So as you see there, that did about 2.6k to both of us. And now you send your shield gambit. So here's Doom Oni. It is gambited, Quint buffed, and Shrike. And so you see here, you lose your shields, gambit, you use your blades, and that will do you full pierce, 40,145 damage. Now, the pierce blades you get from Shrike aren't going to be affected by stack overflow, just so you know. And then here is the fantastic gem. This itself does 54,000 damage. And there you go. Poison Oak is dead. The fight is over, and I didn't really get anything that I wanted. But that is, in essence, how you are going to do the raid. From here, you're simply going to do more cannons until you get told to stop by Damon, and from there, you kind of just wait for the raid to end. But that, in essence, is pretty much everything that you are going to be doing. Upon successfully completing the raid, you're going to get these really cool things called Daemon Fragments. They can be used to craft the Unreal versions, the Unreal gear, which is decently alright. You're going to get a ton of them per run. You get 28, and with usually that means within 3 or 4 runs, you're going to be able to craft a lot of the gear set piece that you want. Now, the Unreal armor isn't what the actual best in slot robe is. If you recall, the Nullity robe is the best in slot robe for level 150 and level 160, but now it is the brand new Daemon robe. And while I personally am not running it because I already hit my damage cap, it is considered by a lot of people to be the best robe in the game, and frankly probably is if you're running the perfect stats. And it pretty much serves as a direct upgrade to what you saw with your robe. It's going to give you sorted cards. It's pretty much just your hit and bubble, except for balance because the devs hate balance. But that is pretty much the gear that you're going to get. You also can get some fairly strong decks. The Daemon decks are incredibly good, and in my opinion, they are the best decks in the game. But you also get a litany of gear. For whatever reason, the Fame and the Ring doesn't give health, but you do get a lot of the gear. It is all the same template that you saw out of the Voracious Void Raid, just adjusted for level 170. But that is all for Death 1 and Myth 1 in the Cabals Revenge Raid. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. I cover everything in Wizard 101, from raids to PvE content. Not as much PvP, but I do a lot of things in this game, and my goal is to help make raids and advanced combat a lot more understandable and accessible to people that may be doing them for the first time. If you'd like to check out any of my other raid guides, you can see them in playlists in the description below. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments below, or join the Discord server that is also going to be linked in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing rest of your day.